were on our trip that are in our midst, and maybe some people that are virtually with us as well that were on our trip, but we're glad you're here, and we're just now officially live on Facebook. And we wanted to have this meeting. We wanted to bring everybody together right after, while the journey was fresh in our minds, and to have a chance to kind of decompress and share with you. And let's see, we've got John is here, Kathy and Mark are here, Philip is here in person, and they all were with us. It was a small group, but a very mighty group. And as we kind of discussed while we were there, we really couldn't have gone with more people. It was it would have been very hard to have a large group. Over the last, well, in 2023, we had brought 100 people to Israel. Some of those 100 people came back again almost exactly 2 years later to be part of this mission. And we had no idea when we went in October, in February of 23, that literally 10 months later, the country that we had just visited would have been ravaged by war. And it was the 75th anniversary in 2023. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm going to let people in as I have to also manage and make sure. Sorry, yeah, there's more people who've come in. Yeah, we had no idea that the trip that we took in February would turn into, and it was literally this time in 2023 that would turn into a really important opportunity for people to see Israel before. Because what happened on October 7th created a whole new dynamic. And, for those of us who've been living this dynamic for the last 15 months, it's been beyond difficult. Somebody asked me when I got back, have I been sleeping? And I wasn't sleeping for the last 15 months. So it's hard for me to say, I'm sleeping any better now that I've gotten back. Yeah, the whole time it's been tough. So, I slept maybe better there because, for example, when I had a chance to, like the people on our trip, when we were watching the hostages, we had 2 hostage releases while we were there. And normally I've been staying up till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock to watch the hostage releases here. And I had a chance to watch it live, at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Actually, a couple of days we were traveling when they were happening, but at least I had a chance to see it. And I didn't have to wait all night or go to sleep and then wake up to see it. So I'm going to share with you some pictures, and I'm going to share with you some videos, and the people who are here are going to maybe share as well. And we will give people a chance to ask questions. I don't know, John, if you want to monitor, since you're kind of on your phone right now, if you want to monitor Facebook when we get to it, if people who are on Facebook are posting things or asking things, we can also answer maybe some questions too at the end. But what I wanted to do first is take people through the journey and what we did. And so I'm starting with a map, and the map that you see here is a map of the war, and especially what happened on October 7th. On October 7th, Israel was attacked and invaded simultaneously. And Israel, of course, had rockets launched at it, and especially the area in yellow around the pink is Gaza. And I was going to make a bad joke about the newest part of the United States. Now I said it. Now I said it. But the yellow part around it were areas that were evacuated, and in some cases are still evacuated over the last 15 months. The red line that goes around that, if you see that red line that extends out, that is the extent of where terrorists invaded on October 7th and 8th, and they were there in some pockets until the 9th. The areas that are circled are places that we went to on our journey. And so Beersheba was the base right here. Beersheba was the base of where we stayed. And the places that I'm going to show you, I'll go back and forth to this map. But to give you a sense of scale, because you may not be able to see the legend, most of where we were, well, everything, all the places that we stopped on this trip to help were within the yellow area. So those were all areas that were evacuated and were completely overrun by terrorists on that day, in those first couple of days of the war. I don't want to talk too much about the war. We've actually talked about it in the past, and I really want to focus on this trip. So I'm not really going to talk too much about the politics of it. But when Israel was invaded again, what we really were, I think most of us were kind of amazed at, was the fact that 6,000 Hamas terrorists, people who are trained in terror, people who are actively engaged in terror, came into Israel. But about 30,000 other Palestinians were part of that Al-Aqsa flood, as they called it. And so if the figures are correct from what the IDF calculated, they shared with us that these were people from ages 6 to 80 who came in. And when they came in with the intent of killing people, with the intent of taking hostages. They came in with vans to take hostages. And so people who could have gone back in a car did not go back in a car to Gaza, because the vans were and the cars were held for hostage taking. That's what they were done with. The hostages weren't an afterthought, they were the thought. And the idea that, 6-year-olds and people up to 80 took part in the murder, rape, robbery, violation of Israel is a difficult thing to think about. And I will tell you, I'm not going to get into graphic details. I would recommend that if, this is not a discussion tonight for children, and so I wouldn't want kids to be hearing some of what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be sharing tonight, because it'll give them nightmares, because it's given me nightmares. So I don't expect that it won't give them nightmares. So over the days that we were there, we spent 4 nights in Beersheba in the south. Beersheba is not a big city by American standards, but by Israeli standards, it's one of the big cities. It's one of the top 5 cities in Israel, and it's the capital of the Negev. And it's one of the few places that we could stay at that would have hotel rooms that we could stay at and travel back and forth. So it's only about 15, 20 miles as the crow flies, but it's about 30 minutes, 40 minutes from most of the places that we went to. And the places that we went to, I'm going to take you through now. And so that was really the closest place we could go to. Tel Aviv is not far away as the crow flies and as the mileages, but there's a lot of traffic getting in and out and around Tel Aviv, the largest city in Israel. And Beersheba has a population of about 200,000. Tel Aviv has over 1 million, and then about 2 million, 2.5 million in the metropolitan area. So we couldn't stay there, though you could stay there if you just went for 1 day, which is what I did back in November of 23 when I first went. So I'm going to take you through the different places that we went to. They're circled, and again, every place that we went to and we spent time in was within about 2 miles of the border with Gaza. So the entire time we were there, we were within 2 miles. And I will tell you that, that's a scary thought when you think about it. rationally, or when you think about how close you are. But I'll speak for myself. I never felt in danger. I don't know if, I don't know, Philip, did you feel, anybody, Kathy? I didn't really feel endangered, partly because I know that the Israeli army is in Gaza. And just so you understand, the Israeli army is still, tens of thousands of Israeli troops are in Gaza and around Gaza right now. So even though that there's a ceasefire, that doesn't mean that Israeli troops are leaving. As a matter of fact, that is part of the agreement, was that Israeli troops would be there, and including the area they call the Philadelphia Corridor, which runs through the spine of Gaza right here, north to south. I mean, remember, Gaza is only about 5 miles at its widest. I mean, this distance from Gaza across Gaza is about 2 miles. That's it. So it's a very, very narrow area. And so when Israel, when talks about like how do we, keep it in the future to, as a safe area, there's 2 million people in that area. And that area literally is about the size of, the distance from here to the northern part of the San Fernando Valley. So it's a very small place. And one of the reasons why we didn't go in any time sooner on a trip, on a mission where I would at least take people, was because, second here, it's not moving, was that I wasn't going to take people until there was a ceasefire, or relatively close to a ceasefire. Now, how did I know that there'd be a ceasefire in January? It was a calculation, There was a calculation there that I thought, one way or the other, the presidential elections in the United States would dictate some kind of answer and some kind of release of hostages. So yeah, I made a bet that by then it would be safe to go. And again, I will not take people to Israel at any time if I felt that there was a safety issue. Let me just get these photos back up. And I will show you why the issue of safety is obviously always going to be preeminent in a trip that we take. So, wait, there's more people coming in. This map shows you the area that we were in, sometimes called the Gaza envelope, Gaza containment zone. This area right here in red is where we were. This is where we were when we were in Beersheba. And if you look, what does the colors here represent? This is the amount of time that you have in order to get to a shelter, to a bomb shelter, if a rocket's coming. That's how much time you have. So when you're in the safety of Beersheba, you have about a minute, 45 seconds to a minute. But as you can see, there's really no part of Israel that wasn't within range of rockets, where it was about a minute at most, minute and a half, because the Hezbollah rockets were able to reach into the south as well, so that, this area in the Upper Galilee, you're still dealing with about 30 seconds of warning. If you go to some place like Sfat or Haifa, you don't have more than 30 seconds. So we can't really take people to the north either, which is why we canceled or we didn't cancel, but a lot of people canceled the birthright trips last summer, because you can't take people anywhere into Israel. You can't take people into the north, and we very rarely took people to the south anyways, but you can't take people basically anywhere into Israel. The green part there is, pretty much Tel Aviv and, the Dead Sea, Masada. I mean, places that are important to see, but you can't take people and not go to the Galilee. You can't take people and not go to not go to the Golan or to areas where you have a chance to see Jewish history.
Sorry, yeah. Okay.
So that's why we haven't taken people up until now. That map right there. So let's take you through the days. We arrived there a week ago, literally a week ago. We arrived there on a Wednesday, and our first stop was going to Hostage Square. And we had a chance to, what? Yeah, but I think I let everybody in. Yeah. We had a chance to go to Hostage Square, and when we were in Hostage Square, where are those photos right now? Hold on a second. We had a chance to see what is evolving as a memorial and as a place of community. Now, people in our group, I don't know. I mean, somebody who is there, and I have this mic here. I don't know if anybody who is there wants to say anything about what it was like. That was our first night there, what it was like to be at Hostage Square.
Yeah. This is what struck me. I made a note on this. So people thanked me for coming to Israel, and they asked me where I lived in the United States. Okay. Sure. Just very briefly, people asked me, well, they thanked me for coming to Israel because you have to understand there's almost no tourism. It's when we were in Jerusalem, it was pretty much empty. We went to a museum, and normally it would be crowded. There was no one there except other Israelis who were on tours. So they thanked me for coming. They asked me where I was from. I said Los Angeles. And they said they knew about the fires, and they wanted to know if I was okay, if my home was okay. And I thought to myself, this is unbelievable. These people are at war, and they're asking me if I'm okay. And that's what really struck me throughout the entire trip. As soon as you told someone you were from Los Angeles, it would say, oh, the fires, are you okay? and so that was really unexpected to me. And I just said, what are you talking about? And that was even true at the Shuva relief station when I would talk to people, IDF soldiers. Oh yeah, you're from LA, or the fires hurt you. And they're going back, and they faced war, and they're worried about us. Hostage Square is, well, one thing that got me is there's a replica that they built of a Hamas tunnel that you can walk through. And John Stillman and I walked through it, and maybe the others did too. I didn't see. That was pretty impactful because you're in this really small area, and it's designed to make you feel the same as the hostages have gone through and perhaps are living in these tunnels. Hostage Square is it's a little bit overwhelming. I mean, there are pictures of the hostages. Some are alive, some may not be. You can buy some things to support the group. You know, I bought a hat. I don't know what else is there to say about it.
I'm going to play a little bit of what it looks like. Want me to say something? Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want to kind of focus on. You want me to sit down? No, sit. Where do you want me to? Come right there. But I want you to, I mean, I'm taking people, I want to go through the stops first, but that's okay.
Steve, are you on? There he is.
Yes, I'm here.
Wave your hand. So Steve and I'll say this briefly and then anybody can ask questions. Steve and I went a week before, and I know a lot of people have thought about it online or here, and we volunteered with an organization called SARL. Everybody knows Rob Hershenson. He did it for a week 10 years ago or so. And since we're only on Hostage Square, I'll just focus on that and then I'll sit down. So when Steve and I got in, we got in 2 days before to climatize, right? You know, jet lag and such. And it was beautiful. My gosh, it was Santa Monica Beach. We flew in, we got to the hotel, which was a block from the beach, and we had a wonderful day. And then we jet lag, so we walked to Hostage Square. And everywhere you are, there's pictures. They are singularly focused on getting the hostages back. There's no right, there's no left, there's no center. That's all they care about. They are uni-focused on getting the hostages back and their safety and security. That's the one thing that was blaring to me. And as we walked, we probably walked a couple miles because you just needed to get ready to go to deal with the jet lag. And there was a hostage circle. Now, we didn't see it because we drove to Hostage Square a second time with the rabbi. But our first day that we got there, we went to Hostage Square, and Stephen, did they let out? They did. They let out hostages that day. And so I was meeting a colleague, and he said, you need to go because there's going to be a protest, right? But it wasn't a bad protest. It was protest to let the hostages out. There was going to be 20,000 people showing up. So we had to meet until we had to get out of there. But at the Hostage Square, as the rabbi is showing you, is it's like Philip said it's a relatively small place. It's not huge, but it's not that small. There's all kinds of nooks and crannies and places, and it's all focused on the hostages. When we were walking up there, as I mentioned, there was a hostage circle, and if I could show you, which I can't, it's they have roundabouts everywhere, and there's a fountain in the circle, and they're sitting there relaxing, and it's all about the hostages. The whole thing is about the hostages. And that's the one thing that I gleaned from that day. So I'll let you go on, and I'll talk about anything else anybody has any questions about, especially the first week, but we're not talking about that right now.
So thank you, John. So this is one of the more prominent artistic displays in Hostage Square. This is an art piece that's kind of based on the love sculpture, the Indiana sculpture, and they actually have one at the Israel Museum that says Ahava. It's been there for 50 years. This one says Tikva, which means hope. And so this is the piece that I want people to remember. The purpose of this trip, to some extent, is to remind people of hope. And as difficult as it is right now to think about the future and to think about, how Israel moves forward, that's the message. And I would argue that Tikva is one of the most important words in Hebrew. One of the most important words for the Jewish people is a belief in tomorrow. So that is the transition to our next day, the day that we actually got into the work and the importance of being there, which was to be at Shuva Junction. And again, I'll orient people on the map occasionally, but for our purposes, we're very close. What? I'll show. Okay, I'll show it again. I'll go back and forth on it. This is where Shuva is right here.
You want to come and look?
Yeah.
Here's Shuva. That's the Shuva Junction. You can see here we're now maybe less than a mile from the border. It's not the closest that we're going to get. When we're in Sderot, we're 400 yards.
400 yards.
This is about a mile to half a mile. Shuva. It's it's a junction. It's a corner, and it's an intersection, as you can see right here. It was not a place that anyone had heard of until October 7th. And on October 7th, Shuva became, this is it, from the street, from coming out of the Shuva Moshav, the kibbutz. Moshav, it's actually a Moshav, not a kibbutz, but it's looking down at what this is, which is a corner of about 20 feet deep on a street, and that is an intersection. And this was the guy who runs this, the guy who set this up, just a guy in Israel, Dror, who we got to meet him by video at High Holidays. I hadn't had a chance to meet him in person, but we all had a chance to meet Shuva, the Shuva brothers, him and his brother Avigal. They started this up on the day on October 7th. Right in front of that junction, I mean, that's the junction right there, it became a field hospital to help evacuate the wounded on October 7th. And out of that came, this is the field hospital that day. And this was just a grassroots effort to turn it into a supply place. And of course, we brought supplies. Some of them you donated at the High Holidays, and in the last couple of months, we had a campaign to bring supplies. And there are people in our first volunteer opportunity. You can see Kathy and Mark and Stephen and John putting stuff out that we brought. We brought about 7 bags, huge duffel bags full of stuff to donate, medicine, clothing, and we were able to stock the supply rooms. The soldiers come in and take what they need. It's a complete honor system. People take what they need before they go into Gaza, and they're still going in. So they still need to do this. And we were able to restock and give them some necessary supplies, especially things for the winter. We brought long underwear, and we brought beanies, and we brought some socks, warm socks so that they can go and get stuff. And it's not just men. Kathy, actually, and I don't know if people from our synagogue have gotten to know Kathy and Mark, but Kathy and Mark were with us 2 years ago. They're members of Valencia United Methodist Church, and they went to help, and were really inspired, and people there were they were so happy that people who are not from a Jewish background came and helped out. And I'm going to show you a picture in a second. Some other people who did. That's a little out of order here. I don't know how these got out of order. So we served meals, and there's Mark and Stephen serving some meals to the soldiers. So we stocked the stuff, and then spent another about hour serving food, talking to the soldiers. This is a guy named Josh, who's an American. We met actually quite a few Americans, a couple British guys. They had a chance to talk before they were going in or coming out of Gaza. And that was really the main thing we were doing, was spending time with the soldiers and having a chance to be with them. There's John talking with some soldiers. And we met while we were there some people from Holland, some Dutch Christians who came there to make French fries. They came there, and this is not the first time they were there. I think they had been there 3 or 4 or 5 times already, just to volunteer. Fly out from Holland, Christians that wanted to help out and felt motivated to do that. So you can see they put out some little logs to make sure they were perpetuating the stereotype, but they made some really good fries, and we had some too. But yeah, just amazing people that are volunteering, and in some cases volunteering a lot. So there's Kathy and John serving the soldiers, and it was a really important way to start. It was kind of a way for us to kind of see what's going on and kind of get acclimated, because we were still a little jet lagged. That was the first day we were there already working. So Look, Sam just posted. There you go. I consider my dad and everyone who went heroes alongside the soldiers and volunteers. There you go. And it's true.
You want to keep.
We all got to do a little something. And this was this was the first thing we did, but it was one of the things I think that was going to stick in our minds and,
Dinner.
you know, something we'll never forget. Yeah, I don't know. My pictures are out of order, so I have no idea how this happened, but I must have hit something. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Come up. Come up. Please.
This is something for all of us. At Shuva, I talked to a bunch of IDF soldiers, and what's going on right now, I don't know if you've been reading, is that a lot of times when IDF soldiers go on vacation to other countries, there are attempts to hassle them, intimidate them, or even have them arrested. And so what I did was I gave IDF soldiers my email, my phone number, and I said, if they want to come to visit California, if they take care of their flight, I'll take care of everything else. And they can come and vacation here in California. I mean, it's Santa Rita. It's not glamorous, but but it's still nice, and they have a place to stay. And so that's something I thought maybe we could offer, or people may want to try to offer, and maybe it's something we can do here. But that's a thought I had from talking to them. I also met a woman there who immigrated to Israel from Pittsburgh, and
You're talking about at Shuva.
yeah, Shuva at the station, and she's a regular there. There are people who are there volunteering on a regular basis.
Yep. Thank you, Philip. I'm gonna. I don't know why the photos went out of order a little bit, but after we were at Shuva, right down the street is one of the first memorials that we went to, which is a lookout station over Gaza, and was our first opportunity to really see Gaza as well, which again was just a few hundred yards away, but it gave us a chance to actually see it, because you can't really see Gaza from Shuva, but you can from the next place we went to. This is a site, and it's now a memorial to the 16 young women who were members of the IDF, whose job it was to look out over Gaza and to monitor it. They were the first people that were attacked. 16 were murdered there. And actually, I think 14 were murdered there. 2 were murdered in Gaza, were taken hostage. And 3 of them were released while we were there. 2 and then 1 more. These are young women my daughter's age, 19 or 20, and they were killed immediately. I will show you, again, I apologize that these now have gone out of order, but we had a chance to see the, they've created a monument there to all the girls who were murdered, and I just wanted to show you just for a moment the just for you to see what this looks like. So just give me a second. I do not know why this happened, but this is the lookout from kind of the top of the hill. There's the 16 stones for each one of them. And the red flowers, the klaniot, the anemone flowers, are the flowers that are the national symbol, the national flower of Israel. It's kind of like a red poppy, but it's become a symbol for the hostages and for the people who were murdered on October 7th. Um, look, our tour guide, who you're going to see in a moment, he refers to them as Nazis. He's not from a Ashkenazi background. He's a Persian Jew, Amit, and he doesn't have family that was murdered in the Holocaust. But he's not the only person who calls the terrorists Nazis. And one of the reasons why I'm not offended by it, one of the reasons why I think it's actually an apt comparison is because, like the Nazis who spent every single amount of their last resources bent on killing Jews, including when they could have saved their own people, right? Because the Nazis murdered the Jews of Hungary when the war was already essentially over. After the Battle of the Bulge was over, after they had no hope of winning, the Nazis continued to murder Jews instead of even saving their own people. That's what happened in Gaza. The people there used all of their resources. They, in some cases, stayed behind to kill Jews rather than do their mission, even to take hostages. And so that level of hatred and that level of Jew hatred and that level of mania is reminiscent of the Nazis. So we went to the lookout, and that was the first time we got hit by a memorial and by, the faces of the victims, the people that were murdered. And again, to see their faces and to see, certain things hit me, everyone gets hit by something. I got hit by, this girl, 19-year-old Shira, who's the same age as my daughter on October 7th. So after that, we went to another memorial. So Shuva was, a chance for us to help out. But after Shuva and going there, we went to the burned car memorial, which is called Tekuma, which is also a memorial that was an impromptu memorial set up. It's where the 1,500 cars that in most cases were also places of death, the cars were brought there on October 7th and in the following days. This was a lot, essentially, an empty lot. And the cars were brought there so that, and again, just to talk about it in the least graphic way, where parts of bodies could be taken and brought out and to be buried, because in Jewish tradition we don't leave even any part of a body unburied, and so these had to be gone through each one, and the volunteers of Zaka who do that work, it's a horrific thing, and so they went through the cars and they gathered the body parts, and in some cases, of course, the cars were so badly burned that couldn't really find anything, and those have been turned into a wall behind the cars that are more recognizable as cars. But some of the cars, and in this case, this is an ambulance, right? That was attacked by rockets, by an RPG, and an ambulance. Yeah. Wait.
Junction that these two brothers set up. We got there early in the morning, and I remember asking the one brother, the one we met, very outgoing. We've seen him on an interview, Dror. There was nobody there, and I thought, okay, this is it. This is what it's going to be. An hour later, Humvee after Humvee after Humvee after Humvee. Some guys grizzly, some not. Some meaning, kidded. These guys are coming in and out of the zone, and it turned out that I was really surprised because the food we were making was, rice and some meat and some other stuff, and they had a store with all the donated stuff, and you just watch guys sit down, and it was really pictures of war. Guys coming and smoking a cigarette. You've seen some of the, American GIs from the World War II or Vietnam or even Afghanistan, they're, and same thing. And it just, that really struck me, you know. Serving food, of course, is a wonderful thing, but watching these and gals and guys, young and old. I spoke to people that had made Aliyah or lone soldiers from almost all over the world, female and male. The oldest one was he was either a lieutenant colonel or a colonel. He was 80, 75, right? Because he was I'm not that old, but I mean, I said, hey, what? He says, I got to do it. And then I met all kinds of, and there was one guy from England who made Aliyah. It's very interesting.
Thank you, John. And I will say that Shuva was incredibly impactful, and every donation that was sent from here was so appreciated. And I saw soldiers they just go through the door and they grab what they need, and they would come out with one T-shirt, one green T-shirt, or one black pair of socks, or black gaiter, like a balaclava, for warmth, because it's cold in the nights in the desert. But I want to just go back to the cars. When that was the first time that I had really significant emotion, and I feel like I have my back to you, so I apologize. But Mark showed the picture. He was trying to show what was in the background, the burnt vehicles, but in the foreground was a white pickup, and you also saw a black pickup. Those were terrorist vehicles that came into Israel. And I never thought that in my lifetime I would ever be that close to something that an actual terrorist touched. But also, in addition, the reason there's that many vehicles is because there were children from the age of 6, adults to the age of 80, civilians that came from Gaza to attack and pillage and plunder in the state of Israel. And they left burnt cars, damaged cars, everywhere, strewn across the roads, to the point that the Israeli army, the IDF, could not get through, and they had to move these. And so this lot was created. And I think that was incredibly significant.
Hold on. Looks like, it looks like trees, doesn't it? Those are stacked high.
Yeah.
Of burnt cars.
Probably 10, 12 cars high. They're crushed, and they're just stacked because they're so damaged. But that is a terrorist vehicle, and it's got a mount on top of it where there were guns. And I mean, it was just unbelievably scary.
And I think, thank you, Kathy. And I think one of the reasons why it's real is because, we all have cars. It's something that if you saw, an RPG, or if you saw a gun, you wouldn't think, I don't have that. Well, this shows you that the average ordinary civilian in Gaza who took part in this, they just took their cars. They took their cars. They took, took motorcycles, took, people just took their stuff that they had. So it's part of that. And also, again, Israel's been very careful that there are no in no place where there was no blood. That's been cleaned. And in many cases, the potholes, and I'm going to show you right now, Sderot, they've been cleaned. So Israel has had a really hard time, on one hand, erasing the images of war, and at the same time preserving them. So I'm going to show you right now. This is Sderot. We spent some time in Sderot. We drove around Sderot. I'm going to just show you a couple of the things we saw. This was the police station, and we were in front of the police station at Sderot. And this is what the police station looked like. This was taken by the terrorists as they went into Sderot. And Sderot has like 50,000 people. It's a city. There's high rises. There's small houses. It's you've seen the community. It's one of the places they take Congress people and different American dignitaries when they come to Israel to see how close, what it looks like to be in a city next to Gaza. So this is what the police station looked like on October 6th. And the terrorists took hostages and also killed the officers who were in that building. And we heard an amazing story of how some of these officers got onto the roof. One of the female officers actually gave her life protecting and allowing the evacuation of 8 police officers and people who were working in the building on that day. They got onto the roof, and the Israeli army actually brought in helicopters to bring them out because the terrorists were locked in here and were using this very heavily fortified building. They knew exactly what they were doing as a place where they could fire on the residents of Sderot. So the police station that was there to protect people turned into a place where they were sniping and killing people. So you couldn't get anywhere near it. The Israeli army, it took them hours to get in, and they tried everything. They launched Hellfire rockets against it, and this is what it looked like after the Israeli army was able to
My God.
be done with it. Yes. Yes, this is some of this. This is not what it looks like now. I'm going to show you what it looks like now. This is not actually even what it looked like when I was there. This was what it looked like on October and later in this picture was taken on October 8th, but that's what it looked like by the end of October 7th. The hostages were obviously neutralized, and this is what it looked like when I was there in November. And you can see there were Israeli police officers who had come down to pay their respects, to light a candle, and to remember their fallen comrades. Today, there is a monument there. Oh, sorry. These are rockets. All around Sderot, they have rocket pieces. And it's not like from October 7th. They've gathered rocket pieces in Sderot for the last 20 years, folks. We saw a menorah at the Chabad in Sderot. That was not from October 7th. That was a rocket menorah that they've made, literally a Hanukkah menorah made out of. I didn't see a picture. Did someone take a picture of that? Yes, send me a picture of that. I'll put it up right now. The rocket menorah was made over years. These are parts of the Israeli response, which is the Patriot, the Tamir, and this is what the Palestinian rockets from Gaza look like. Those cost about $200, $300 to make. Actually less, depending on how the outer casing is made. And the Tamir rocket, the Patriot rocket interceptor, each one of those costs, a couple $100,000. So it costs a couple $100,000 to intercept a rocket that costs $200. You sent it to me? To the phone or to the? Okay. No. I'll put it up right now. Here. Sorry. This is the Sderot. If you have a picture of the police station too, by the way, what it looks like now, the memorial. I didn't see a picture. I didn't have a picture of that, John. So this is, I'm going to share this right now. This is a picture of the Chabad in Sderot. Okay. This is a menorah made out of rocket pieces. But this has been there for over, at least a decade. The menorah made out of rocket pieces, with the one in the middle, the shamash, is a Patriot, the one that knocks out the rockets around it. That's Jewish that's Jewish ingenuity. What, you sent me the other one? Okay, but you texted it? It's not there yet. Don't worry. So Sderot we were at Friday morning, and we were there first, and then again, here, I'll show it to you real quick. This is the monument. This is what the Sderot police station looks like today. That field has now been turned into oh wait, it's not up yet, sorry. It's now been turned into a monument. That's the police station, folks. There's a full monument there on the site. That wall behind it has bullet holes from where the police station, the building next door to the police station. that monument was ready on the first anniversary of October 7th. Can you imagine? Okay, let me put that up too. On each one of the pillars is a quote or a text. This is that's this is one example. Are you with Israel? This is what a 6-year-old child said when the Israeli army got to her apartment, making sure that the person that was on the other side of the door, on the other side of the safe room door, was an Israeli soldier, not a terrorist. So, 6-year-old. And we saw some of the kids of Stay Road. That was one of the things that I think a lot of us were really touched by, was the optimism of the kids that live there today, right? They were moving into a new apartment, the kids that we met, 3-year-old on her birthday. As we were looking at this police station, she comes by with her friend. Was her sister or her friend? I don't remember. From Stay Road, we went to Nova, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures of Nova now, which was obviously a very difficult. Oh, let's show you one thing. This is no. This is the entrance to Nova. You see that? "15 seconds when a rocket comes there." I think the thing for me, and it was very hard to be at Nova because, again, it was mainly young people that were murdered there. But 400 of the 1,200 people that were murdered on October 7th were at Nova. So it's become synonymous with October 7th to some extent because of how many people were murdered there. The terrorists did not know that that was going on. That was not part of their plan. But they found so many people that they could murder there that they actually got held up there. And I don't want to say this in a way that will be misconstrued, but ironically, Nova probably saved many of the kibbutzim and maybe the places that they were supposed to go to, because they completely lost their mission and started killing people there. And that allowed the Israeli army extra time to get there. And that's a horrible equation. I don't want anyone to say that's like I'm saying that massacre saved lives, but it effectively did. Yeah, Philip, you were going to say something?
Realize that the Hamas terrorists wanted to try to link up with other Hamas terrorists from Hebron who never showed up. But they didn't know about Nova. And when they got there, even though we hear that they were trained and disciplined, all that went out the window, because their primary mission was to kill Jews, and that's what they did. But in a way, I think the rabbi is correct that did delay Hamas from attacking other places and moving further into Israel.
Yeah, they found the order of battle, or if you will, the orders that they had of what they were supposed to do. The terrorists. It was an organized, well planned for 2 years. The attack. This wasn't, for the most part, the 6,000 people who came in were trained. They knew what they were doing. They had maps. They had destinations they were supposed to go to. The 30,000 people, the ordinary Gazan civilian that joined up, was not trained necessarily. They were not, they were told, they found out that morning what was happening in some cases, but they lost the mission, kind of went out the window as this happened, as this unfolded. And understand that thousands of terrorists were killed that day. I mean, thousands of them. Immediately, they were killed. The Israeli army was not able to, obviously, they were completely taken by surprise. But that didn't mean that the soldiers, those women that you saw that were murdered, those 16 women, they took out hundreds of terrorists. In some cases, again, I didn't show pictures of it, but their Israelis had mounted remote guns that were there to shoot in case something like this happened. And in some cases they worked. In some cases they were destroyed by drones that the Palestinians used. But in some cases the drones were, some cases the sight and shoot guns that Israel had were effective. We know that thousands of terrorists died that day. Yeah. Oh, well, Philip.
Okay, sorry about that. Come on.
They heard you before.
Yeah, they heard me before. Okay, so on Nova, here's what I learned from our guide, Amit. He was a survivor of the attack, and I think the rabbi will talk more about that. Yeah. So the location of the festival was only sent out about 24 hours before the festival. So clearly Hamas did not know about it in advance. So when the terrorists came upon the festival, they first came upon a lower entrance, okay? Then they moved to a higher ground area, which is basically a large open park. So think of it like Santa Clarita's Central Park.
What? Oh, back to.
As he's talking, I'm gonna point it out.
Yeah.
Logistically, we won't spend a lot of time on it, but it's really very, that's really, because I mean, I don't know if you plan to go through his whole.
Oh yeah, I mean I could go through the whole thing, but I'm going to show it.
So I'll just explain, show you.
Here, why don't you get the
They can't hear.
they can't hear you.
But you go ahead.
Finish what you're going to say.
Okay.
Nothing, go for it.
Okay, so
Nova.
Yeah, of southern, right, that area of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
so what we know, or what we think we know, it yeah.
I'm done with this.
Well, Hamas wanted to take the city of Beersheba.
Plan out what you're gonna do if you're gonna do this.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
gonna,
think so.
I'm just gonna leave it running so it looks like we're still there.
I think that they're still processing and they need more time.
We can hear
Okay, so that was the idea, but they came upon the Nova Festival, and that
This is it right here.
that delayed them. Because even though this had been planned out years in advance, and even though we heard stories that these were disciplined brigades of Hamas fighters, they weren't that disciplined. They came upon this festival, and rather than bypass it and move on to the real objective, they didn't do that because they saw all these Jews in an open park, and it was an easy killing field for them. Murder, rape, taking hostages. And so for all that supposed discipline that we heard about, it went out the window. So these are really the people, this is who they are, all right? And I want to say more about that when we get to the kibbutz, because, thank you.
So this is still Friday. And did you want to say something else, John? This is what this is.
No, just that it was a target of opportunity that they never anticipated.
Yeah, and I'm just going to show you because Nova was Nova. Yeah, becomes, again, to some extent synonymous with this whole attack. Let me just show you one of the things that was in, and that's why I would have that picture there. This is what the Nova site looks like normally. I was under the impression that it was kind of like dusty, like Coachella, and didn't really have, it was not going to be anywhere near as beautiful as this. But this is was the parking lot where they were. This is a campground, basically a national park in called Re'im, right next to another kibbutz. And this is our tour guide. This is Amit. And let me just share him just as an example.
Entire gravel route. I carry about shrapnel. I hear this voice that tells me don't stop, keep on moving. I'm not willing to stand in traffic. I don't even know why they are standing, but they all try to get to that.
Yeah, it's a little too hard to hear. But this is just an example. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Now, Amit was our tour guide the entire time, but we had Amit as our tour guide because he was a Nova survivor, and he's somebody who's been very active in the community with the Nova survivors. This is an area where the stage was, which has been turned in. Some of you have seen this. This has been turned into a tribute to the young people who were killed there. So this was not exactly the people who were here when, they weren't necessarily in that point, but these were established on the anniversary. They did a concert, an EDM concert, where they actually had a DJ playing to these monuments to the people, the young people who were here. So this is an area where this is where the stage was, and that continues to be preserved and again, was kind of a more of an impromptu memorial tribute. What I'm going to show you now is another area. This is separate. What? That's an excellent question, right? Because we know that about 400 people were murdered there. It's a very important, again, don't say they died. They were murdered there. 400 people were murdered there in this beautiful park. Again, people who could be our kids. There's a few thousand survivors. There's like 3,000 survivors of Nova. So not everybody was murdered there. Our guide, Amit, I'm about to show you, he was able to escape. This was the parking lot. He was able to get his car out. And because he kind of is familiar with the area, he's been a tour guide for 10 years. He didn't become a tour guide because of Nova. He just happens to have that experience and knowledge to add to his being a tour guide. He's mainly taking Israelis now. There's no Americans coming. There are virtually no Americans. So he's taking Israelis to see this area. This was the parking lot. This was where his car was parked. His Subaru fortunately had a four-wheel drive. He was able to get out of the parking lot, and he went the opposite direction. Rather than go towards his home, he lives in Holon, which is towards Tel Aviv. He went the opposite direction because somebody told him, don't turn left. If he had turned left, he most likely would have been murdered. By turning right, he was able to go south and start the journey of getting away. I'm not going to go through his whole journey. I will share a link of his journey. He's talked about it before. I actually have a video that which I'm not allowed to show, which is a video that he took during the festival. He took it as the people were being murdered. He didn't know it. He knew there was something going on. He said there's a war going on. You could hear him say it, but he had no idea what exactly was happening. And he, like many people, and we had 3 Nova survivors. Some of you were here when Idan and Amit and Rowie, Amit and Idan were here telling their story. 2 brothers, you remember, and their friend? They were telling the story of how they survived. They survived on foot, which was almost impossible. This guy had a car, and it was almost impossible. So this area of the parking lot has now been turned into essentially almost like a cemetery. There's no bodies here, but this is a planned out memorial, not like the one that I showed you before that I was walking through. This is an actual planned area where these are permanent markers. This was planted by, you can see it right here. This is Karen Kayemet. This is the JNF did this. This is what the JNF does. In some cases now, has turned their work into taking this park that was part of a national park and turning it now into a memorial park. So this has been planned out. It's the monuments to each person, the pictures are every few feet. There's another picture, and it's all been landscaped, and the trees have been planted, and there'll be a tree and a tribute around there. This one was an interesting one. Again, this is just kind of like a typical, one of these monuments. The average age of the people that were murdered was about 30. Our tour guide happened to be on the older side. Amit is 41, and was definitely one of the older people there. But I thought this was interesting because this was one of the girls that was there, was murdered. That's her tree. And on one side of her memorial is her as a soldier. And this is her there. One side. Same monument. So this is a monument to Amit's friends, which I'll show you in a second. This is Amit's good friends Adir and Shiraz. And he actually made this sign, our tour guide. Again, Amit is very active, and I'm going to share you his, he has a link for people to support that. The next day, on Saturday, I'm not going to show you any more of Nova right now because it's essentially, first of all, I don't have rights to some of the videos, but it's a very emotional thing, and we finished there, but we went back, we had Shabbat, we had a dinner in Beersheba, and the next day on Shabbat, we didn't do any of those kinds of volunteer things and visits because, quite frankly, it's Shabbat, and they don't have those kinds of things. So we went to Ashkelon, which was also attacked by rockets. But here we had a beautiful day at the marina. It was almost a day for us to kind of think about, what a normal day in Israel would be like, a Shabbat. And we had a beautiful day. We had a beautiful lunch, and had a chance to learn about some other people that are helping the owners of the restaurant. It's called Scuba. It was also a boat shop, right? Take people out. You can go out scuba diving from there. The owners, the son of the owners, Hanan, who I met on the phone, the mother, the owner who was there, introduced me to her. Just another example of what's happening in Israel. This guy organically started serving barbecue to soldiers in hospitals. He realized that they're eating hospital food. He wanted to do something special. So every Tuesday, he's created an organization where they do barbecue for the soldiers. And he goes around the country, and there's 6 or 7 major hospitals where the soldiers are, and he brings them barbecue. They bring out a barbecue, and they barbecue up for the soldiers. Just as a grassroots thing, like the Shuva thing. These are just average, ordinary Israeli kids, young people, who started these things. It's unbelievable. So Saturday, we had a chance to go to Ashkelon, and we had a chance to kind of have a little bit of Shabbat, have a little bit of peace in the midst of this. And that was Saturday. Then Sunday, we were back and really spent the day in the kibbutzim. And this was our first visit, was to Kibbutz Be'eri, which we also helped raise money for. And Kibbutz Be'eri was one of the worst and most grisly sights of October 7th. I think for a lot of us, that was also one of the most emotional moments. The kibbutz is a gorgeous kibbutz. And again, just to show you real quick, it's very close to Nova. So it was one of the places that they were able to get into and attack. This is where Be'eri is. This is Nova, and this is Be'eri. So, it's about a mile away. And this is the border with Gaza. So these two areas were hit immediately. Be'eri was hit, and you know what? I'm just going to show you. I want to show you a little bit of the video, but just a second or two of the video of our guide who took us around that day. This is our guide, Yarden. If you don't mind, I'm just going to, I know we're running a little bit later, but I just want to show you a little bit. Gosh, I don't think the volume's up very high in this. Let me just play a little bit of Yarden. Let me just say one other thing before I actually play the video from Yarden. The kibbutz itself is been around for since 1946. So the kibbutz actually predates the establishment of Israel, and it's a gorgeous kibbutz. Every kibbutz has a thing. They have agricultural, but they also have the print contract for Israel, for the Israeli government. So they print up all the passports and the driver's license and the ID cards for Israel. So it's a very successful kibbutz. It's very hard to get into. And our guide, Yarden, happens to be a third-generation kibbutznik. His grandparents were there. His parents lived there and amazingly survived. And his own kids were there. He was not there, and I'm going to let him I'm going to play just a few moments of it. But this is what the streets of Be'eri look like normally. And even though this was a street of tremendous violence, you can see how beautiful it is. I think a lot of the people that were with us were kind of surprised at how nice the kibbutz houses are, because we have this image that the kibbutzim are like poor people that are living in a tent or a mobile home. These are gorgeous homes. At Be'eri, 113 people were murdered in about 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours. And these beautiful homes were attacked with rocket launchers and grenades and gunfire. And in some cases, the Israeli army had to come in and blow them up because they were inhabited by terrorists who used them as places to shoot at the IDF. So in some cases, the Israelis had to destroy these homes. This is what Be'eri, at least the part that we walked through, looked like. We didn't have, we took pictures. They allowed us to take pictures, but only of homes that the owners, the kibbutz was owned by the kibbutz, but the residents gave permission. This is a sign that that basically says this is where this devastation happened, and it says right here, the family put up the sign: politicians can't come in. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It says, doesn't matter. You're not allowed to come in here. And it says, thank you, the family. This is one of the families. These are some of the people who were murdered on that day. The Bar family. These are some of the people that were killed trying to rescue them and successfully rescue them. Kibbutz Be'eri has about 1,200 residents. About 10% of them were murdered. There's not a family there that didn't lose somebody. There's not a family there that didn't lose many friends. For a week or 2 weeks, people were going to funerals every day, and in some cases, multiple times a day. They in some cases had to pick whose funeral they were going to go to, because they had so many people that they had to go to. This family that lived there, there's a couple that were in their 70s that lived there. They loved classic rock, and so they put up some of their favorite songs. Landslide, pictures of their family. And these are tributes to some of the soldiers who came in, who don't live there, who came in there and were killed in that site too. Again, trying to rescue the people of the kibbutz. This is Yarden, who took us around. I'm going to play you just a couple of seconds of his video in a moment. This is one of the homes. Again, a kitchen. What's left? This is we're here in the Haran home in Be'eri. The home that was there's the bars. The ones who just like listening to music. Let me just show you real quick a little bit of Yarden telling us what happened. Yarden was not there that day. He'll tell you what he was doing that day. We're almost done, folks. I can't do much more of this myself. So, this is Yarden. I'm going to play you a little bit. I've posted the whole thing. It's on Facebook, so you can listen to Yarden's story. I'm going to start this.
I was away in that day. I was camping on the beach with friends on that weekend near Ashdod, which Ashdod is about 1 hour north of here. And I've been on the security team of the kibbutz for the past 7 years, and I had a rifle in my home here in the kibbutz. And what we always prepared on, what we always trained on, along with the IDF, is the IDF told us that our job as a security team is when the terrorists arrive, first of all, they told us there will be 2 to 5 terrorists. This is the worst case scenario for what the IDF was preparing for. And they told us you have to hold on for 10 minutes until the IDF will arrive. This is what our job as a security team was. And I was in Ashdod when I realized what's going on. I said, okay, I don't have 10 minutes to get to Beirut. I'm about an hour north. So I called a neighbor of mine. As I said, we never lock the doors even when I'm going for the weekend, I never lock the door in my home. So I called a neighbor of mine. I told him, where is my rifle safe? Where is the safe? And the combination. He's a former general from the IDF. His name is Yossi Bachar. You can look his story up on YouTube. And he got my rifle and my ammunition and everything, and he went out to join the security team. And fortunately, he survived, and he did very well. He managed.
Listen, it's 8 minutes, and I'm going to ask you if you want to hear it, and it's a very powerful testimony. I'm going to ask you to watch it on Facebook because it's up on our Temple Beth Me Facebook page. He tells the story of how his brother, Shachar, died defending the kibbutz. His brother, who was born and raised on the kibbutz as well, who was there that day as part of the defense committee. They had 10 rifles, they said, 10 rifles to guard the kibbutz. 11, what? No, I think it was 10 to defend 11 people. Because again, they thought that the army would be there, quickly. This is one of the homes of no, but if there was, this was the Horan family. Some of you might have seen the wife. The husband was killed. The wife was at the she was at the inauguration. Tal, the son, is hopefully going to be returned. He's one of the hostages. The granddaughter, was returned she was one of the survivors. I think her name was Hannah. She was returned after 50 days. So these hostages, it says right here, these people were all returned after 50 days. He was murdered that day. And again, Tal, Shoham, the son-in-law, is hopefully coming home. We don't know. He's on the list. You can see his face as one of the people that might be coming home. Yeah, Philip. Yeah, I that's on the 8-minute video. I'm not going to. So Philip, I don't want to not tell the story, but basically Philip wants me to tell you that I said his brother died defending the kibbutz. His brother Shachar, who was, by the way, a very devoted peace activist, was very, very committed to peace. He was guarding the medical clinic where the people who had been taken there, who had been hit by gunfire and shrapnel. He was there defending them and protecting the wounded. Shachar was, and he was holding off the terrorists. Unfortunately, the IDF got there about 15 minutes too late. He ran out of ammunition, and he died defending the people there. They survived. The people he was defending, none of them were. The terrorists weren't able to breach the area that he was protecting, but he gave his life. He ran out of ammunition. That's how he died. So yeah, Joanne. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just finish up with I'll get to that. This was again back in the bar home, but let me show you this picture. This is a picture of the graffiti that the terrorists left behind, which basically says the Al-Aqsa brigades, which is what they call it's one of the mosques in Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This one says Palestine on it. Again, Sderot, Be'eri, all these places were always part of, they've been part of Israel since 1948. They were not taken in the 67 war. This was not a part of Israel that's disputed territory. This is not occupied territory. This is part of Israel. It's been part of Israel since 1948. And this is the people this is what they believe, right? That it's every part of Israel is their country. This area was not part of an occupied territory. Over the graffiti, that's another one that says Al-Aqsa on it. Actually, one of them says, "This is your fate," or it's the Arabic, but essentially this is your fate. That's what it says. But the Israelis have crossed it out and have written Am Yisrael Chai. People of Israel live. That was what they did to the graffiti, and that's what they're doing right now. The Israeli people have become completely unified. I'll just share this picture too. This is a picture that Kathy took, and she said this is a symbol of tikva, the tremendous tikva of the people of Israel. Right? You took this picture, Kathy. So, yeah. Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody on the phone understands. We learned a lot about bomb shelters when we got there, but the country of Israel made sure that every home, every apartment has a bomb shelter. But we actually got to see them in action when we were in Be'eri. And Yarden shared with us how there's no locks on the bomb shelter doors. So many of the families were in the bomb shelters trying to hold the door closed. If they were able to keep it closed, then Hamas would start fires. And you see some of those metal windows are open. They were trying to get out. And so we could look through and see how thick those were and what they were actually, trying to do to save themselves and to save their families. And I think this is what was going on inside the homes, where they were just burning everything. And this was very emotional. This was tens upon tens of homes that we saw. It wasn't that we were allowed to see. That we were allowed to see.
Understand that most Israelis have never been to Be'eri. So the Israel government does not want people to see this, at this stage. So just so you know that most Israelis have not been to Be'eri. They let us in there because we've already raised funds for Be'eri, and they appreciate what we've done, but most Israelis have not been there. And it's partly because it has not been repaired yet. It has not been reconstructed, and it's going to take a very long time to reconstruct it. So I don't know, that kind of gets to the answer to Joanne's question. What do I think is going to happen, or what do I think should happen? I just want to show one other thing. After we were done at Be'eri, we went to Kibbutz Erez, which is right on the border. You get a chance here again, being taken around by the members of this kibbutz to learn about how they defended the kibbutz. For the most part, this kibbutz was able to hold off the terrorists. This was the gate that they were able to defend. And yeah, so this border, the border's right there. Yeah. So this gate has now been replaced with another gate down here, which is where they've now created a little safer protection. But this is all that protects the kibbutzim on the south. With a gate like this was what stopped, was the only thing that could stop the terrorists coming in. This is the view from there into Gaza. This is what Gaza looks like now, northern Gaza. So when we talk about those areas that have been destroyed in the north, that's what it looks like. That's what the people are coming back to in Gaza. So this is right on the border with Israel. Again, at Erez, we got to help out. We picked oranges and tangerines because the people there have been evacuated and they're not there now. So we were able to do what we could to help them. And so we picked oranges and we did a really great job. There's Kathy and Mark picking some tangerines. There's John. Look at John. He's really, really working hard. It's the most work he's done in years. Yeah. There's Philip. And as I said, this is a successful attorney back at home, but here the height of his success is picking oranges. And he really felt that. He loved it. And he really, again, I don't want to speak for him, but he said this made him feel like he was able to do something. And I think all of us had a chance to feel like we were after a really tough few days able to do some stuff here. And this was one of the last things we did in that area that even I worked. You see, I was not just talking, I was working. And yeah, it was working. So we all did that. And I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about Kibbutz Erez, but yeah, I did. I had a Viking hat on and everything. So yeah, there's my hat. So anybody else want to say anything from our group about Kibbutz Erez? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been bombarded about how many thousands of civilians have been killed by Israeli soldiers, a whole bit. And we have not heard anything unless I'm in a cave someplace about the 30,000 civilians.
You haven't heard it. Israelis have. And so, we haven't heard it. And that's an important thing for you to know. And it definitely shapes what Israelis feel needs to be done in the future, which is not assume that there's going to be peace anytime probably in our lifetimes, unfortunately, because if 30,000 people took it upon themselves to participate in the murder, most Israelis, and I'm talking about most, not every Israel, I don't speak for everyone, but people on the right, people on the left, our tour guide Amit was part of the Meretz party, which is further to the left than Labor. He's essentially would be like a Bernie Sanders guy. And he was what you'd expect from a 40-year-old Israeli who goes to EDM festivals. He is no longer a peacenik anymore. Let's put it that way, as they call it. He's no longer a peacenik. I don't want to share with you what he said, but he basically does not think that there is a solution, a peaceful solution. Many Israelis feel that way. The Israelis understand that it wasn't just that people were killed that day. The concept of a peace with the people of Gaza was obliterated. Nobody after this really honestly believes that there can be peace with people that hate you that bad. I mean, people knew that there was hatred. People knew that people in Gaza hated them, but there's a difference. There's a difference. And it was a wake-up call to a lot of Israelis that it was far worse than they imagined. And while most Israelis obviously didn't want to see civilians die, their primary concern, folks, is getting their citizens home. And that's what they care about. And that's what they've been living with. And the difficulty of living with this for 15 months, I feel it a little bit. but not like them. And even if some of the Israelis immediately after would have said, "Hey, let's not have a long protracted war," most Israelis today say, however long it takes, we have to make sure that they can never ever hurt us again. And if that means that that Gaza looks like that, they're okay with it. They really are. They don't want to hear anything else anymore. And they really don't feel that there's nothing that you can give to the other side that's going to stop them from doing that. Randy. Oh, no, Randy. Where's Randy?
Is in the last couple of days, what our president has said about.
Yeah, we were coming home as that was happening. We left that day. We had a policy briefing on Tuesday. As we left, we got to be with the Jerusalem Center for Foreign Affairs. And at some point, we're going to have some of those people out. It was actually Mark Kaplan's cousin, Dan Diker, who had a chance to talk with us with some of his staff about policy and about what's happening. And, look, nobody knows. These are people who are paid professionals. This is a think tank that does policy briefings and works with the Israeli government. It was an organization that's headed by Dory Gold, who used to be formerly the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. These are smart people. And right now, they'll tell you the most important thing is to try to orient and educate people to what the reality is here. Not what we want it to be, but what it is. And so I think a lot of people in Israel have shifted their political stance on this. And I think a lot of people in America have too. And I think a lot of people in America have either kind of like either they're done with Israel, and unfortunately, there are too many of our people that are saying now they're now done with Israel. But there are also a lot of people in this country who say, "Hey, I was wrong. I thought a two-state solution was possible, and I don't think that's the case." Look, I don't know. I sat next to one of the most famous liberal rabbis in the country today. I don't want to mention her by name, but 2 days, yeah, when I came back. No, yesterday, whatever. When I came back from Israel with our people, and she said, "Look, when you think that peace is least possible, that's oftentimes when it happens," and that's a very optimistic way of looking at it. And I'm glad that there's people who are more optimistic than I am, but she knows, and everybody knows, that the average citizen in Israel is not going to be concerned with the plight of the Palestinians anymore. I hate to say it, but
Recently about the takeover of Gaza, is that going to hurt with our hostages?
yeah, I mean, that's a question of like, what do I think, or what do people who pay attention think is going to happen? I think that that's probably, again, in we've had now 4 years of Trump as president, and now a couple of years of him campaigning. You know him, and you know that he says things that, again, they're negotiating positions. I think that he's made it clear to the Arab world, we're going to come up with some drastic and creative possibilities here. I don't think that the United States is going to administer Gaza. I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think, based on the other things that he said about American troops, he's not going to commit American troops that are necessary to actually do that. But he's letting the Arab world know that this status quo cannot exist anymore. And I will tell you this, I don't know what will happen. I don't know what the real thing that'll happen out of this negotiation, but that's the way he negotiates. He says something and then wants to see what the other side will say. He's got the initial reaction. I don't think anyone's surprised at, and people are freaking out about it. But the reality is that he's saying that the status quo, we can't go back to that. And every Israeli agrees with that. Every Israeli agrees with that. Even the ones who are on the peace side say we cannot go back to October 6th. So something is going to happen, and it hopefully will be better for everybody. But I want to make it clear, when we saw in the first months of the war in Gaza, that, Israelis were dying, and there's now almost 900 Israeli soldiers that have died in Gaza. And I will say, and you know it, and it's fairly obvious, that if Israel wanted to commit ethnic cleansing, and if Israel wanted to effectively end the problem of terrorism there, they would have bombed it and never had a soldier go in. They could have just kept bombing it. They didn't. And so the 900 soldiers that died for Israel died because Israel is committed to a moral war. As much as war can be moral, Israel's committed to it. Because otherwise, not one Israeli soldier would have stepped foot in there until it looked like the rubble that you saw. So it's ridiculous. It's actually an outrage to the 900 young men. It's 900 people that died to save Palestinians, as far as I'm concerned. So it's a disrespect, ultimate disrespect to their sacrifice. So when I hear, again, especially people at colleges or people in the media say that Israel commits ethnic cleansing, every time I hear that, it's a disrespect to those soldiers. So you saw that the death toll decreased tremendously after the initial ground campaign happened. You saw it over the last 5 months. I looked at it. I mean, I care about this. I mean, I care about innocent, kids dying, and there are kids that died. That it's a tragedy that I blame Hamas for. I told you that. I said that at High Holidays, but the numbers were decreased tremendously over the last, in the first 7 months or 6 months of the war, 35,000 people died. In the last 4 months, a couple of thousand died. Again, I'm not saying a couple thousand is terrible, but it doesn't compare to the 35,000 were killed initially. I mean, hello? And we don't know how many people have died either, because the Palestinians have included everyone who's died, including people who've had cancer and who've had heart attacks over the last year. So we don't know how many people died. That's a death toll that has not been, there has been no culling of any numbers that deal with legitimate and kind of what we'd call a normal mortality. So whatever you're going to say, the facts are what they are, which is that the casualties have gone down tremendously as Israel achieved its military objective, which again caused the life of 900 soldiers 900 lives ended too soon to save innocent Palestinians. So remember that. Yeah. 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 Yes. Yes. So Ariel, your real question is, how are the Israelis allowing that to happen? What she just said, to have soldiers surrounding a square while the hostages are being released. Because like Ariella, if that doesn't make you sick, oh yeah, Israeli soldiers are right out there. But they're right there. There's Israeli soldiers that are 500 yards from that. So Ariella's question, which is my question, which is any, I think, normal person's feeling, is how does an Israeli soldier not want to open fire on those people? They're enemy combatants. I understand, but you understand, like, she feels what she's saying. I just said what she felt. Am I correct? Okay, so so Ariella, you're now feeling what Israelis are feeling, which is the complete. No, 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 no. No, it's happening. No, no, it's happened every time. It happened except for the first time. Every time since, there have been Hamas regulars, if you will, in uniforms. Okay, I mean, I don't know. Listen, I don't know how much of that they're showing. They may not be showing all of it, but Israelis are humiliated by that. And you're humiliated by that because you love Israel. So you're humiliated by that. That's the intention. You're supposed to feel humiliated by seeing living Hamas fighters in uniform taking part in this. Yeah, that's the objective. The objective is to upset you and to outrage you, and that they've succeeded. So then the question is, like you and I, and again, most people who understand what's going on here, our hope is that when every hostage that's alive is out, then you finish it. That's my answer. And that's about as clear as I can make it. And because nobody believes that people are going to go back to, again, what was October 6th, which was rockets being fired on Israel every year. I don't know. I mean, listen, Ariella, if you can't, they can round up a couple hundred. I don't look. Their forces were decimated for real. I mean, Israel was successful at the objective of decimating their leadership and their forces and their weapon stashes and their tunnels. And again, they're still obviously soldiers that are still alive. They even if Israel killed 90% of them, there's still a few thousand. Well, look, they can recruit more, but if they recruited more in the last year, which is true, that means that they're whatever training they're getting, they haven't been highly trained. And again, I don't know the assumption of how highly trained these people are is always one of what is it? But it's 1.8 million people. I mean, Trump said it, you heard it. I hope everyone hears it. There's 1.8 million people. And the population, and this is why the ethnic cleansing thing is such a offensive thing, is that the population of Gaza actually grew over the last year. It grew. No one talks about that. But if that's ethnic cleansing and genocide, how is the population increasing? And the reason is that the population of Gaza is doubling every 7 to 10 years. So that's the challenge of 1.8 million people in a couple square miles. That's the most densely populated place in the world, folks. It is the most densely populated place. Clearly, they're not being ethnically cleansed because there's a lot of people there, and they're not doing a whole lot other than reproducing because there is no jobs. How many thousands of Palestinian workers that we hear are now not allowed to come into Israel now? Do you understand? They have no economy now because Israel cannot let them in. For the last few years, Israel was able to work with Hamas. This came at a time. I just want to say this, and I'm spent, folks. I'm this close to, as you can see, losing it. But Israel thought that on October 6th, they thought that they were at a level with Hamas where there was actually cooperation happening. I thought people who study this stuff, people who watch this stuff, thought that Hamas and Israel were actually closer than they had been in maybe 10 years or maybe longer, maybe ever. People thought that Hamas and Israel, they had done not just a very effective job of planning this, but of convincing Israel that this was very far away on the horizon of something even conceiving of this was not. I will tell you, I was shocked because I actually said this before. Back in May, the last time that rockets came from Gaza, which happened every year, the last time it was the Islamic Jihad that launched the rockets, and Israel only attacked Islamic Jihad positions. They did not attack any Hamas positions. And I thought to myself, well, and I talked to people in Israel about it. I said, maybe Hamas is cooperating with Israel in eliminating Islamic Jihad so that they can consolidate power, which is typical for the mafia style tactics that these people use. And so I thought maybe Hamas and Israel are cooperating because Israel not only wiped out the Islamic Jihad rocket launchers, but they seemed to know where they were, which means that Hamas must have told them where they were. And so I thought maybe Hamas and Israel are cooperating at a really amazing level. Turns out the whole thing was staged. That was a facade that they used to make Israel think that things were better. Turns out, again, that Islamic Jihad and Hamas were cooperating. They both participated. This was a coordinated attack. And both groups that are sometimes kill each other, more for territory, more like gangs than for politics. But regardless, they cooperated. They both took part in this attack. So clearly, Islamic Jihad and Hamas were not fighting. So Yeah, John.
I was just
Right.
gonna say, why? Heard this for 2 weeks. I heard this for 2 weeks from everybody I spoke to. It's not a real estate issue. Has nothing to do with real estate. You can fill in the blanks.
So, look, the level of again, most Israelis had no idea that they were hated that badly, especially the people that wanted peace with them. You know, especially the people of Kibbutz Be'eri, who were well known for being peaceniks. Shahar Tzemach, Yardane's brother, who was killed, was a member of the furthest left group in Israel. He's a soldier who was part of a group called Breaking the Silence, which were soldiers that were going around essentially apologizing for Israeli actions against Palestinians. So he served in the army and then was part of this group Breaking the Silence that was essentially a mea culpa for this is a guy that ran out of ammunition protecting his brothers and sisters and kibbutz residents, his family and friends on October 7th. So as I said to our group, at what point was it when he put his last magazine in, when he shot his last bullet, did he say, I maybe was on the wrong side on this discussion? But he was one of those people, one of those heroes who died. He died. He died. He was murdered. He didn't die. So, any other questions? Any other comments? I want to thank everybody for coming today. I don't know why the picture of me picking oranges should be the last picture. I do want to share one more thing, and we're going to help out. We're going to continue helping the people of Israel. These are a picture of Amit's friends. This was the bomb shelter that his two friends who were with him dancing. This is a picture that Amit, our guide, did for his friends, Deer and Shiraz. They had two young daughters that are his three daughters' ages. They're all under, I think, 6 or 8. Their two daughters are now being raised by Shiraz's sister. They were in this bomb shelter. This bomb shelter was where they took cover after they fled Nova. They got to this place and they were in the bomb shelters because there's bomb shelters all over the Gaza envelope. And they got into the bomb shelter. And you can see the sign right here for their murder. They were with their friend, Celine. And the terrorists threw a grenade into the bomb shelter. And the two ladies, and there was another, a guy who was bicycling that day. They were killed. And Adir was able to get out of the bomb shelter. And when he got out of the bomb shelter, they shot him at point blank range. So one of the things that our tour guide did, Amit did, is he started a fund so that their children can go to college. So yeah, I didn't want to end with that, but we got to spend. I'll show you one last thing before we go. We did get to spend the last day in Jerusalem, and we all had a chance to pray at the wall for you and for all of our families, and for the people that we met, and for the people that we didn't meet because they were murdered and are dealing with trauma. And so there's Amit smiling, which he really appreciated taking us there, and it's one of the ways he's dealing with his trauma. He's very affected by it. I didn't know him before, but I can tell you, this is a guy who is dealing with, as Philip told me, he's traumatized. And this is us at one of the new excavations in Jerusalem. This is below the wall. This is below the part of the wall that you see. We're underneath the Kotel. These are the Herodian stones. And you can see people put letters and prayers into this place, and we prayed there at the wall. And this is a place that has just recently been excavated. We got to go into the city of David. We started on the other side of the old city, and we came underneath a tunnel into the old city, and we're at the wall when we came out, and we got to go underneath the wall. So these are stones that are not as high quality as the stones above because no one would see them. They were underground, and Herod's city was up above it. So we got to finish in Jerusalem, and again had a really special time in Jerusalem the last day, and we left, I think, feeling like we had a chance to give a little back, and to most importantly let the people of Israel know that we stand with them. And I know everybody here does too. While we were there, our community had a wonderful Israel festival, and I want to thank Ariella for being the point person for that for our community. We had hundreds of people that came out to support Israel on the day that we were there, helping out at kibbutz, at Stay Road and at the kibbutz. So, yeah, it was a pretty emotional trip. We will be going back, and every trip that we take from now on, we'll take people at some point. At every trip, we'll go down to the Gaza corridor, and you'll see these places. You'll see Nova. You'll see Stay Road. You'll see the place where those young women died defending Israel, and hopefully we'll see a rebuilt kibbutz Be'eri, because they are going to rebuild that kibbutz. It's going to take a few years. I guarantee you they'll rebuild it faster than they would in the United States, but you'll see that kibbutz be rebuilt. The people want to come back. They're going to come back, and they have to rebuild, and it's going to cost them tens of millions of dollars to rebuild their infrastructure, their dining hall, and their medical clinic, and the places that are communal buildings. But their print factory is back up and running. It was back up and running days later. They had to print, driver's license and things like that. But I mean, it's an important part of the local economy. Philip.
One of the things I really liked was, really briefly, when we were there, the Israelis, they didn't think of us or call us tourists. They called us supporters and people in solidarity. And that really meant something to me, I think to all of us. And I just remember at the Shuva station, Kathy and Mark boy, you guys were putting supplies away so fast. It was amazing. Anyway.
And again, thank you for everybody that's on. I mean, I see the Schulmans, David and Cheryl, are with us from Denver, and I see my aunt, or sorry, from Texas. I say Dallas. I'm not Denver. And I see Belinda, who was with us on our trip from Arizona here, and we've got people in many places that have been watching us on Facebook. So we thank everybody for being here, and I especially want to thank these wonderful people. A couple of them you can see, Stephen, who's with us out in Oxnard, but Kathy and Mark. I don't know where Mark was, somewhere in this. But oh no, that's right. Mark was coming up out of the tunnel. That's another story. And there's John and there's Philip back there. And then the Krongolds, Helene and Ralph were with us. They live in the valley, but they had been to Israel with us a few years ago. With some of you remember the Krongolds were there with us on our 2013 trip. So they were there 11 years ago. And there will be many more trips to Israel in the future. We will go back. And as I said, we'll go back to some of those sites, and we'll take you to some of the places that everybody here has been helping to rebuild, the Erie and the Shuva Junction help, and the kibbutz help, because we went to Erez through the kibbutz movement, and we had the kibbutz movement out here. My cousin Ariella and Karen Pardo and Adele Raymer, who were here back in September talking about the kibbutzim. They're the ones who arranged Erez. So this trip was a long time in the making, and was really to connect in real time with the people that we've been helping for 15 months, and we'll continue to help them. And as I said, most importantly, we're going to go back and we'll do more. So thank you everybody for doing a little something by paying attention and by being here. And again, hopefully going out and educating people and letting people know that on one hand, things were in some ways worse than you're being told, but also in some ways they're better. And most importantly, they're better because the Israelis have never been more unified, and they've never been more committed to making sure that that they have a country and a future and a home for us and for the future. And I mean, this guy Amit was like, when are you coming to move here? He didn't just say, when are you coming back to visit? When are you taking another group? When are you, his was, when are you making Aliyah? So again, thank you everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll either see you tomorrow night for Shabbat, or we'll see you in the coming weeks. And hopefully we'll hear some good news as we pray for the return of however many hostages there are, the men and women who we remember 400, almost 490 days in captivity. So we hope they come home soon. So thank you everybody again. All right, we'll see you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.